In an era defined by constant noise, relentless digital notifications, and the crushing weight of professional expectations, most people find themselves trapped in a cycle of reactivity. We wake up to the jarring sound of an alarm, immediately check our smartphones, and spend the rest of the day putting out fires, leaving our deepest ambitions and personal well-being for later, a time that rarely arrives. But what if there was a way to reclaim your sovereignty? What if the secret to joining the ranks of the world's most successful, creative, and impactful individuals wasn't found in working harder, but in how you start your day? This journey is about more than just waking up early. It is about a fundamental transformation of your internal and external world. In the pages that follow, we will explore a revolutionary morning routine that has been the silent engine behind the success of titans of industry, legendary artists, and history-making icons. You will discover how to harness the quietude of the dawn to optimize your brain chemistry, fortify your physical health, and reconnect with your deepest sense of purpose. We will follow the story of a disillusioned entrepreneur and a frustrated artist who, at their lowest points, encountered a mysterious mentor who promised them the keys to a world-class life. Through their journey, you will learn the exact biological and psychological mechanisms that make the early morning hours a victory period for the elite. You will be introduced to frameworks that simplify complex neuroscience into actionable steps, ensuring that you don't just learn about greatness, but actually begin to inhabit it. This book is designed to be your roadmap out of mediocrity. It is a call to step away from the distracted masses and join a dedicated community of high achievers. By the time you reach the final chapter, you will possess a comprehensive system to double your energy, triple your productivity, and cultivate a life of profound meaning. The path to an extraordinary legacy begins at 5:00 a.m. Are you ready to take the first step? To understand the power of the 5 a.m. club, one must first understand that peak performance is not an accident of birth or the result of raw talent alone. It is a structured, intentional practice. This book provides a high-level overview of the victory hour, a 60-minute window that serves as the foundation for everything else you achieve. We will explore the concept of the four interior empires: mindset, heartset, healthset, and soulset, and explain why focusing solely on your thoughts is never enough to achieve true mastery. We will also delve into the science of transient hypofrontality, a state of brain activity that allows for deep flow and creative genius, which is most accessible in the stillness of daybreak. You will be introduced to the 20-20-20 formula, a practical breakdown of how to spend your first hour to ensure maximum impact. Furthermore, we will address the critical importance of the twin cycle of elite performance, balancing intense work with deep recovery, and the essential role of sleep in maintaining a high-performance lifestyle. Expect to be challenged. This is not a collection of life hacks, but a rigorous philosophy for living. We will move from the theoretical to the practical, using the narrative of a billionaire mentor and his two pupils to illustrate how these principles apply in the real world. By setting clear expectations for discipline, focus, and self-mastery, this orientation prepares you for the deep work ahead. The story begins at a massive personal optimization conference, a place where people from all walks of life gather in hopes of finding a spark that will ignite their potential. Among the crowd were two individuals who felt they had reached a dead end. One was a female entrepreneur whose once thriving business was now under threat, leaving her feeling disillusioned and exhausted. The other was a frustrated artist, a man with immense talent who felt blocked and disconnected from his creative source. They were both searching for something, anything, that could pull them out of their stagnation. The keynote speaker for this event was a legendary figure known as the Spellbinder. He was a man of immense presence, famous for his ability to weave magic with his words and captivate audiences with profound insights into human excellence. As the Spellbinder spoke about the possibilities of an extraordinary life, his passion was infectious, yet the weight of his message was heavy. He urged the audience to stop waiting for luck and to start taking command of their own destinies. After the Spellbinder's powerful presentation, a strange man approached the entrepreneur and the artist. At first glance, he looked like a common vagrant, unkempt and poorly dressed. He had intentionally adopted this disguise to remind himself and others that true value isn't found in outward appearances or material wealth. However, if one looked closely, there was a single clue to his reality: an incredibly expensive, high-end watch on his wrist. This man was, in fact, a billionaire who had reached the absolute pinnacle of success in both his professional and personal life. The billionaire began to speak to them, not as a wealthy tycoon, but as a fellow traveler on the path of self-improvement. He explained that his massive fortune and his legendary status were not the results of natural-born genius or simple grit. Instead, he credited his success to a secret he had learned from the Spellbinder years ago. He told them that while many people sit around wishing for extraordinary things to happen, the truly elite performers in this world take it upon themselves to make those things happen. The secret, he revealed, was the construction of a world-beating morning routine. He argued that the way you begin your day determines the quality of your entire life. As the entrepreneur and the artist listened, their skepticism began to melt into genuine curiosity. Who was this man, and could his claims really be true? Sensing their interest, the billionaire made a stunningly generous offer. He invited them to join him at his private beach estate on the island of Mauritius. There, he promised to teach them the intricacies of the 5 a.m. club and show them how to transform their lives forever. The only condition was that they had to meet him the very next morning at 5:00 a.m. sharp. The following morning, the entrepreneur and the artist arrived at the meeting point, still half doubting the reality of the situation. However, their doubts vanished when a chauffeur-driven Rolls-Royce pulled up to collect them. They were driven to a private airfield where a sleek, ivory-colored private jet awaited. On the side of the aircraft was a logo, 5AC. When the entrepreneur asked what it stood for, the chauffeur simply replied, "The 5 a.m. Club." As they took to the skies, the journey toward a new life began. The billionaire explained that getting up at 5:00 a.m. was the single most important habit he had ever developed. It was the keystone habit that allowed him to escape the gravitational pull of mediocrity and soar into the realm of greatness. He told them that this practice had not only amplified his creativity, but had also doubled his energy levels and tripled his daily productivity. The artist and the entrepreneur were still puzzled. They asked how simply waking up early could have such a profound impact. The billionaire smiled and began to list the greats of history who had understood this secret. He mentioned the prolific novelist John Grisham, who wrote his first books in the early morning hours before heading to his law practice. He spoke of the legendary composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who utilized the quiet of the dawn to hear the music in his head more clearly. These icons understood that the isolation and peace of 5:00 a.m. provided a multiplying effect on their efforts, giving them a competitive advantage that the rest of the world, still asleep, could never match. As the trio settled into the stunning environment of the billionaire's Mauritian retreat, the lessons moved from inspiration to hard science. The billionaire wanted his pupils to understand that the 5 a.m. club wasn't just a lifestyle choice based on discipline. It was a strategy rooted in the biological realities of the human brain. He began by explaining the concept of cognitive bandwidth. Every human being starts their day with a limited amount of mental energy or bandwidth. Every decision we make, every notification we check, and every person we interact with consumes a portion of this bandwidth. In the modern world, we are bombarded by a relentless stream of distractions: social media, news cycles, work emails, and the general noise of society. By the time most people reach their lunch break, their cognitive bandwidth is almost entirely depleted. This is why we feel fried by mid-afternoon and find it impossible to focus on high-value tasks. We end up shifting our attention from one trivial thing to another, ultimately giving nothing the deep focus it deserves. However, the billionaire explained that at 5:00 a.m., the world is quiet. There are no emails, no phone calls, and no social media updates to steal your attention. This provides a golden opportunity to dedicate your full mental capacity to a single, high-value activity. This period of isolation allows you to work with a level of intensity that is simply impossible later in the day. But the advantage of 5:00 a.m. goes even deeper than just a lack of distraction. It involves a fascinating neurological phenomenon known as transient hypofrontality. While the name sounds intimidating, the concept is quite simple. At the break of dawn, the brain's prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for rational thought, analytical processing, and most importantly, the inner critic that makes us worry and overthink, temporarily slows down its activity. When the prefrontal cortex is quieted, your tendency to stress, analyze, and hesitate is significantly reduced. At the same time, the peaceful environment of the early morning stimulates the brain to produce a potent cocktail of neurotransmitters, specifically dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine provides the drive and motivation to pursue goals, while serotonin provides a sense of calm and well-being. The combination of a quieted prefrontal cortex and an influx of these feel-good chemicals allows you to naturally enter a state of flow. Flow is that elite mindset where you become fully immersed in your work, lose track of time, and perform at your highest possible level. It is the state that top-tier athletes, world-class musicians, and groundbreaking scientists inhabit during their most brilliant moments. By joining the 5 a.m. club, you are essentially hacking your biology to enter this state of flow every single day. The billionaire emphasized that this isn't just about being busy early in the morning. It's about utilizing a specific window of time when your brain is optimized for genius. When you win the battle of the bed and get up at 5:00 a.m., you aren't just gaining an extra hour. You are gaining an hour of peak cognitive performance that will set the tone for the rest of your day. You will find that because you started in a state of flow, you remain more focused, more productive, and more effective long after the sun has risen and the rest of the world has begun its chaotic scramble. This is how the elites separate themselves from the crowd. By winning the morning, they win the day. Standing by the crystal-clear waters of the Indian Ocean, watching a school of squirrel fish dart through the waves, the billionaire turned the conversation toward the specific habits that distinguish those who change the world from those who are merely remembered by history. He called these the 4 focuses of history makers. The first focus is the concept of capitalization. The billionaire was adamant that the greatest people in history were not necessarily born with more natural talent than anyone else. Instead, they were defined by the extent to which they capitalized on the gifts they did have. He explained that self-discipline, grit, and relentless perseverance will always trump raw giftedness in the long run. Many talented people coast on their natural abilities and eventually fade away, while those who commit to the daily grind of improvement eventually surpass them. The lesson here is to stop worrying about what you don't have and start maximizing what you do have. The second focus is freedom from distraction. We live in a world designed to keep us distracted. The billionaire pointed out that the average person spends hours every day on addictive but hollow technology. To reach the elite level, you must become a purist. This means simplifying your life and your work. It means focusing on a few truly amazing projects rather than spreading yourself thin over dozens of mediocre ones. In your daily life, this requires a relentless stripping away of everything that does not add value. Turn off your notifications, cancel the meetings that don't need to happen, and protect your time with a ferocity that others might find strange. If you want to achieve what the 1% achieve, you cannot live like the other 99%. The third focus is the power of day stacking. This is the idea that small, incremental improvements made every single day are far more powerful than massive changes made once in a while. The billionaire used the example of the 1% rule. If you improve a specific skill or area of your life by just 1% every day, you will be 365% better by the end of a year. Greatness is not a sudden event. It is the result of stacking, productive days on top of each other for years. Consistency is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. The fourth and final focus is personal mastery. To master your field, you must first master yourself. The billionaire explained that the first hour of every morning should be dedicated to working deeply on your internal world. This isn't just about learning new facts, it's about refining your character, your health, and your spirit. He told the artist and the entrepreneur that they needed to view themselves as athletes of life. Just as a professional athlete spends hours training their body and mind, a high achiever must spend their victory hour training their internal empires. The billionaire's message was clear. You cannot build a world-class life on a foundation of distraction and inconsistency. You must focus your energy, capitalize on your strengths, stack your wins daily, and never stop the pursuit of self-mastery. As the entrepreneur and the artist absorbed these lessons, they began to see that their previous failures weren't due to a lack of potential, but a lack of focus. They were ready to take the next step in their transformation, but the billionaire told them that understanding the strategy was only half the battle. They also needed to understand the four interior empires that govern the human experience. As the sun climbed higher over the white sands of Mauritius, the billionaire led his pupils on a stroll, preparing to debunk one of the most common myths in the self-help world. You've all heard the gurus talk about mindset, he said. They tell you to think positive thoughts, visualize success, and you'll magically change your life. But mindset is only 1/4 of the equation. He explained that to achieve true mastery and live an extraordinary life, you must cultivate the four interior empires. These are mindset, heartset, healthset, and soulset. Focusing on just one while ignoring the others is like trying to drive a car with only one wheel. First, there is mindset. This is your psychological life, your beliefs, your focus, and your internal dialogue. While important, the billionaire argued that a world-class mindset is useless if your emotional life is in shambles. This led him to the second empire, heartset. Heartset refers to your emotional well-being and the quality of your inner feelings. He quoted the famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, who said that unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and they will come forth later in uglier ways. If you are carrying around suppressed anger, sadness, or resentment, it will eventually sabotage your intellectual performance and your creativity. You must proactively work on your emotional health to ensure you are operating from a place of joy and peace rather than fear and stress. The third empire is healthset, which refers to your physical vitality and longevity. The billionaire made a humorous but profound point. You can't be a titan of industry if you're dead. Elite performers understand that their body is the vehicle for their genius. By committing to optimal fitness and nutrition, you grant yourself extra decades of high-energy productivity. Exercise isn't just about looking good. It's about igniting your energy, dissolving the cortisol that causes stress, and expanding your capacity for joy. Every day is better when you have the physical stamina to meet its challenges. Finally, there is the fourth empire, soulset. This is your spirituality and your connection to your deepest self. The billionaire explained that in the rush of modern life, it is incredibly easy to get pulled toward the material and the superficial. We become obsessed with status, money, and external validation. Soulset is about taking time in the quiet of the morning to remember who you truly are and what you have to offer the world. It's about bonding with the hero inside of you and meditating on your higher purpose. When you are grounded in your soulset, you become unshakable in the face of external chaos. The entrepreneur and the artist were stunned by this holistic framework. They realized they had been neglecting their heartset and soulset for years, focusing only on the grind of their mindset. They were eager to know how to actually apply these concepts. How do we work on all four of these in just 1 hour? The entrepreneur asked. The billionaire smiled and told them they were finally ready for the 20-20-20 formula. But he added, they wouldn't be learning it in Mauritius. He wanted them to be inspired by a different kind of energy. He announced that they were headed to the eternal city, Rome. He wanted them to experience the passion of the Roman people, the timelessness of the architecture, and the richness of the culture as they learned the final pieces of the 5 a.m. club puzzle. The trio stood in the center of Rome at the foot of the iconic Spanish Steps. The city was still bathed in the blue light of pre-dawn, and the air was cool and crisp. It was, as always, 5:00 a.m. "Now," the billionaire began, "it is time to learn the exact mechanics of the victory hour. This is how you transform 5:00 a.m. from just waking up early into a period of total life optimization." He introduced the 20-20-20 formula, which divides the first hour of the day into 3 equal 20-minute blocks: move, reflect, and grow. The first 20 minutes, 5:00 a.m. to 5:20 a.m., is the move phase. The goal here is to engage in vigorous physical exercise. The billionaire emphasized that the key is to make yourself sweat. This isn't just about burning calories, it's about changing your brain chemistry. Sweating helps the body eliminate cortisol, the hormone associated with fear and stress. Simultaneously, intense movement triggers the release of a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is often described as miracle grow for the brain because it repairs damaged brain cells and accelerates the creation of new neural pathways. By sweating for 20 minutes, you are literally training your brain to think faster and more clearly for the rest of the day. The second 20 minutes, 5:20 a.m. to 5:40 a.m., is the reflect phase. This is a time for deep peace, solitude, and introspection. In an age where we are constantly reacting to external stimuli, this period of silence is a revolutionary act. The billionaire suggested using this time to reflect on what is most important to you. He encouraged the use of a journal to write down your ambitions, the things you are grateful for, and even your frustrations. Putting your thoughts on paper helps you process toxic negative energies and provides clarity on your vision for the future. This is also the perfect time for meditation. Scientific research has shown that regular meditation lowers cortisol and helps the brain remain calm under pressure. Great performers are always the calmest people in the room, and that calmness is built in the silence of the dawn. The final 20 minutes, 5:40 a.m. to 6:00 a.m., is the grow phase. This is your time for learning and expanding your knowledge base. The billionaire pointed out that every billionaire he knows shares one common trait: a voracious love of learning. Use this time to study the biographies of great achievers, listen to audiobooks on business or psychology, or watch documentaries on innovation. By dedicating 20 minutes every day to your personal and professional growth, you are ensuring that your knowledge capital continues to compound. Over time, this daily commitment to learning will make you an undisputed master of your craft. As the city of Rome began to wake up and the first golden rays of sun hit the ancient stone buildings, the billionaire looked at his pupils. He had given them the map to greatness. By moving, reflecting, and growing in the first hour of the day, they were now equipped to join the 5 a.m. club. But there was one final lesson they needed to learn, a lesson about the other half of the day. To truly sustain elite performance, they had to master the art of rest. For their final lesson, the billionaire took the entrepreneur and the artist deep beneath the streets of Rome into the ancient catacombs. As they walked through the dark, dusty tunnels where Romans had buried their dead for centuries, the billionaire explained the significance of the setting. "We are surrounded by those in a permanent slumber," he said, "which makes this the perfect place to discuss the vital importance of sleep." He told them that many people in the hustle culture believe that sleep is a luxury or even a sign of weakness. However, the billionaire argued that sleep is actually one of the primary predictors of life expectancy and a non-negotiable requirement for peak performance. He introduced the twin cycle of elite performance, which consists of the high-performance phase and the deep refueling phase. To illustrate this, he used the analogy of a farmer. A farmer has an intense season of tilling the soil, planting seeds, and working long hours in the fields. This is the performance phase. However, every good farmer also knows the importance of the fallow season. During the fallow season, the land is left to rest. It might look like nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, the soil is replenishing its nutrients. Without the fallow season, the soil would eventually become barren and unable to produce a harvest. Humans are the same. We cannot stay in a state of high-intensity performance forever without burning out. Growth doesn't just happen when you are working. It also happens when you are recovering. The entrepreneur admitted that she often felt guilty when she wasn't working, but the billionaire insisted that rest is not a waste of time. It is a prerequisite for greatness. A major part of this recovery is mastering your sleep hygiene. The billionaire pointed out that most people are chronically sleep-deprived, largely due to their relationship with technology. The blue light emitted by smartphones and tablets interferes with the production of melatonin, the chemical that tells your body it's time to sleep. He advised his pupils to turn off all technology by 8:00 p.m. Instead of scrolling through social media, they should spend the evening connecting with loved ones, reading a physical book, or taking a relaxing bath. By getting into bed by 10:00 p.m., they would ensure they had the high-quality rest necessary to make the most of their 5:00 a.m. wake-up call. Finally, the billionaire shared a practical hack for those struggling to get out of bed. He suggested buying an old-fashioned alarm clock and keeping all technology out of the bedroom. Set the clock 30 minutes fast. When the alarm goes off at what looks like 5:30 a.m., you are actually waking up at 5:00 a.m. This small psychological trick helps you bypass the weaker part of your character that wants to stay under the covers. The moment the alarm sounds, you must jump out of bed immediately. Don't give your brain time to come up with excuses. As they emerged from the catacombs and back into the Roman sunlight, the entrepreneur and the artist felt like completely different people. They had the science, the framework, and the tools to take charge of their lives. They understood that the 5 a.m. club wasn't just about an hour in the morning. It was about a commitment to excellence that spanned the entire 24 hours of the day. The journey of the 5 a.m. club is ultimately a journey toward the center of your own potential. Through the story of the billionaire, the entrepreneur, and the artist, we have seen that the path to an extraordinary life is paved with discipline, intentionality, and a deep understanding of human biology. We have moved from the victory hour and the 20-20-20 formula to the holistic cultivation of the 4 interior empires and the essential balance of the twin cycle of elite performance. The key takeaway is that your morning routine is the rudder that steers the ship of your life. By reclaiming the first hour of your day, you are not just increasing your productivity, you are declaring that you are the master of your own destiny. You are choosing to operate from a state of flow rather than a state of distraction. You are choosing to prioritize your health, your heart, and your soul alongside your professional ambitions. As you reflect on these insights, remember the power of day stacking. You do not need to transform your entire life overnight. You simply need to win tomorrow morning. Get up at 5:00 a.m., move until you sweat, reflect in the silence, and grow through learning. If you can do that for one day, you can do it for a week. If you can do it for a week, you can do it for a lifetime. The world belongs to those who are willing to do what the majority are not. While the rest of the world is sleeping, the members of the 5 a.m. club are building their empires, refining their genius, and preparing to make their mark on history. The dawn is waiting for you. The only question that remains is, will you answer the call? Your extraordinary life begins at 5:00 a.m. Don't let another day slip away in the fog of distraction. Step into the light of the dawn and become the hero you were meant to be. For more book summaries for free, install Zyroverse.